Well, today we're talking onions again. You know why?
Why?
Because it's time for us to plant our onion plants. Hey, I'm Greg.
I'm Sheila.
Welcome. And we love this time of the year because it's onion time.
Our warehouse smells delightful.
It smells like we got onion plants going out by there. Everybody here is involved in shipping out onion plants today, just about. We got onion plants going everywhere. We got our first shipment for the fall, and we're getting them out. We will be shipping for the rest of the month of November. So, onion plants
On their way.
on their way. And you know, they look really good this year. Look at that, they're pretty. Now, these are vidalia onions, and let me go over what vidalia onions are just a minute. To be a vidalia onion, if you don't know what a vidalia onion is, then it is a brand of onions that's grown in a particular area of Georgia that is known to be very, very sweet. And we love vidalia onions here in the South. But to be a vidalia onion, it's got to be grown in this area that the state of Georgia have marked off there, a territory you might say. But not only that, it's got to be a approved variety. And there's 20 somewhat varieties that are approved for vidalia production. So you got to have those two things, grown in a particular area and a type vidalia. And these are both. These are grown in the vidalia area, and they're also vidalia approved varieties. Now on our website, we have vidalia approved varieties that we sell seed for. We're selling the plants as well. So if you didn't plant your seeds and growing your own plants, which is fine to do, we do that also. You can buy plants from us and get your vidalia onions planted. Short day onions, intermediate day onions, and long day onions are generally the three types of onions that we talk about. And the reason we talk about that is because you plant them in different areas. How about that?
Sounds good.
But you know what first? First, I got to give Mr. Kohlrabi a shout out. Look at that baby right there. Now,
pretty.
if you folks have never grown Kohlrabi before, this is quick start variety, which is I'm a big fan of. About 45 days, you can root this thing off. I cut the root off. The root is right here. I cut it off because it had dirt on it. But this is what the plant looks like. Now, this is one of those plants that most of you are probably not familiar with. You can eat the leaves, as just about everything says. You've always heard everybody talk about that leaves are edible. Well, you can eat leaves on about anything. But the main part of this that's desirable is this bulb, and this bulb sits on top of the soil there. And I'm going to peel this off right here. We can all get a good look at it. Then I'm going to take Mr. Knife here, and I'm going to kind of cut into it a little bit. You would peel this thing like you would an apple. And then you could do several different things with it. Mama Hoss, you want to tell them the best way you like to?
I like to roast it in the oven, like with some beets and onions and carrots. It's also good if you just boil it in some chicken broth.
Anything boiled in chicken broth.
Right. Then you can also use it as a replacement for cabbage and slaw. This year, I'm going to ferment some.
Really? I didn't know that. But if they get old, they get a little tough. But this one here is perfect right here. It tastes kind of like a mild turnip.
Can I have some? That's good.
A mild turnip root, I might add. Don't you think so? That's the best way to describe it.
It's a little sweet. It's really good. Be good dipped in some ranch. I got something for you.
Very easy to grow. So if you've never grown Kohlrabi before, boom, boom, I'd suggest doing it. Let me clean up my mess. And what have you got?
Okay. So we got broccoli growing in the garden.
We do a lot of broccoli.
A lot. And we got a new
What
type.
is this?
I'm going to get you to do a taste test to see if you can tell the difference in our two types of broccoli.
Not blind.
Yeah, blind.
Oh, this never works out good for you.
I got the extra long for your big head.
You're going to have to tie it.
All right. That bad shoulder won't let you tie.
Yeah, one will take that head.
I don't pull the hair here.
It's over my ears. I can't hear as well. So if y'all,
Okay.
These blind taste tests have always worked out pretty good, but there's been a couple of times they've worked out really bad for me. But you're going to be kind to me, are you, Mama Hoss?
I am. So what's the two type of broccoli we got going?
Ooh, Green Magic. And what else? I can't remember the other side.
What's the new Asper broccoli?
Oh, Asper yeah. Which is not, it's sort of a broccoli. It's a cross between a broccoli and a type of kale, I do believe.
And you think you can tell the difference?
Broccolini is what the restaurants call it, but what we're going to call it on our website because of some patent issues is going to be Asper.
Okay. So.
Now, I'm fully blindfolded, by the way, so you can't be pointing me to pick nothing up.
All right, open your mouth.
Oh, boy. That's warm. No, that's regular broccoli.
You think so?
You steam that, that's really good.
All right, try this. Oops, I'm drinking.
Oh, just about. That has a sweeter, mellower, butter flavor. It's not as quite as. If you don't like broccoli, I'm assuming this is Asper broccoli. I could be wrong.
Okay, I think you need one more taste.
Oh,
Just a little slow.
that one there is a lot more mellow. That's pretty good there. I hate it when you laugh. I don't like it at all. No, that's good. That's really good. The last one I preferred the most. Not the last two. I think it was different in the seasoning on the boat.
Take your blindfold off. The first two was this.
Really?
Yeah. And then the last was that.
Wow, I couldn't hardly tell the difference in it. That was more buttery. The first two were that.
Same amount of butter, same seasoning.
Huh.
You want to try again without your blindfold?
Yeah, so this right here is a lot milder flavor, I would say, than that. Both of it's good. That's delicious right there. That's good too. But if you don't like broccoli, I think you'll like this Asper or broccolini. And it was good also.
You really couldn't tell the difference.
I really couldn't tell the difference. But now this right here, I do think it's a little bit milder
Okay.
than that. But it was really good. But you can eat this raw in salads and things like that. But that's good. Oh, boy, you had me so worried. Especially when you started laughing. I knew you was going to.
I know. Well, I did have some hot sauce I was going to, and at the last minute.
Your heart just wouldn't let you do it, would it?
It wouldn't. You can thank me later.
Yeah, all right. That's good. So this will be my
lunch.
dinner right there, lunch or dinner.
So we're talking about onions today, right?
We're talking about onions today, but that broccoli was super. What do you think?
I like this better.
You know, the thing about broccoli is most people love it or they don't like it at all. Have you noticed that? It's kind of a love-hate thing. Yep, we are talking about onions. So here in the South, pretty much if you draw a line with the top of the state of Georgia and draw it all the way across, it kind of swoops up a little bit. We have this map here that we're going to show you right now where it shows you where you can plant short-day onions. And if you are in this area right here, you can plant these type of onions here now to overwinter so that you can harvest those big, sweet onions in the early spring. And that's what we do. We like to overwinter ours. You can plant them in the springtime if you miss this fall thing. You're probably just not going to make as big an onion and you're not going to make them quite as early.
And the reason we do, or we like transplants, is because the onion seed is so small. You can control your spacing. When you plant them from seed, the weed pressure.
Well, you
really
don't need to be planting seed. Yeah, I would never recommend direct planting onion seed. Now, if you want to grow your own onion plants, use a tray like a 338 and it worked fine there. But no, I would
never put them directly in the
never
ground.
direct seed them. No, you're not going to have good results with that. The only onion that I would think you're going to have good results with that is a bunching onion.
And if you plant it in the trays, it takes about 7 days to germinate.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
And then you need to wait 10 weeks before you put it in the ground.
8 to 10
8 to
weeks.
10
8 to 10 weeks, yeah, somewhere there. It's about the same amount of time for the farmer that grows them in the ground, but yeah, I'd say 8 to 10 weeks is good. So if you miss that opportunity to plant growing, you can buy your onion plants. But boom.
Okay, and there's two different stages after you plant these onions.
Vegetative stage and then the bubbling stage. So one of the things is most people don't let me hand me an onion there. People that plant these onions here don't understand is you gotta feed these things a lot early on.
Heavy feeder.
Heavy feeders early because you're trying to grow that top and you want to really, really grow them. And then you want to pull back on the fertilizer or stop the fertilizer and let this bulb get bigger there. But when we do this stage right here, we're always fertilizing heavy early on. We have some issues there we may have to kind of work out a little bit. And we're going to talk about that a little bit.
But we want it to produce the big green leaves.
Oh, yeah.
And put all the energy to the green leaves in the beginning.
Right, right. So we want to feed it heavy. Yep, you're exactly right.
And then the bulbing stage.
Then the bulbing stage, we're going to cut off the fertilizer 30 days before harvest, and that's going to cause that bulb to get big.
And you'll know when it's bubbling. You'll see it actually get big. The soil will crack.
So for the last 2 years, I've actually wrote the date down, and for us, the bulbing stage begins the last week in February. So.
And then they're usually ready to harvest the end of April.
No, yeah,
April?
around the 1st of April, I think I've been harvesting around the 1st of April.
I think I looked on my old TikTok and it was like April the 11th is when my leaves fell over.
Yep. So around the 1st, that gives you 30, 35 days if you stop fertilizing it in the February, and that gives you harvest time the 1st of April. And then just about every year, a week to 10 days after that, maybe 2 weeks of it, your elephant garlic gets ready behind your onions. If you plant the elephant garlic, I planted my elephant garlic about a week ago. So I plant mine a little bit ahead of my onions. And then
So we plant these in November.
Yep.
Intermediate people would plant theirs late winter, early spring.
Yeah, so I actually wrote that down here somewhere. Because it's a huge window there.
Right there.
Yeah, it's a huge window there, intermediate day, because of the difference in the area. You take the intermediate map, I mean, these several hundred miles difference there, so it's a large range there. Normally speaking, on intermediate day, you're looking at January to April. And then for long day, that's you guys way, way up north, you're looking at from April to the 1st of May, somewhere there. Us people in the South are blessed to be able to grow them all winter long, and we get our onions off early. So we get our onions off in time to turn around and flip that spot and to be able to plant other things there, such as corn or whatever. So we get another crop off of it than the folks up north do.
So let's talk about once you get them in the ground. Well, before you get them in the ground, what do you do to your dirt?
So you need to work your soil up good, and preferably you had something in there like corn, or corn's probably one of the best ones. But even if you had brassicas in there, it would be good to plant onions behind those things. Of course, I can't think of anything that you would be growing on an onion that you couldn't in the fall or the late summer. I can't think of anything you would be growing there that you didn't want, besides a multiplying onion. Now, if you're growing our tall multiplying onions, you wouldn't want to plant these behind that, but you could plant it behind any of your fall crops, your late summer crops, any of that would be fine to plant your onions behind. Now, normally speaking, you don't want to plant onions in the same spot, but every 3 years. So you want to kind of get that rotation there, because onions can have some disease problems, and with that long 3-year rotation, that helps a lot with those diseases.
You want that organic matter in there?
You want that organic matter in there. Now, what we recommend is pre-plant about a week to 10 days, up to 2 weeks ahead of time. We like to put this in our soil, and we like to work this into our soil there. Now, this is hen manure. It's nothing fancy. It's just some good organic fertilizer. We use this right here, and if you're doing a raised bed or you're doing containers, or you're doing a small area, this stuff here works fine. Now, if you're doing a large area and you have access to chicken manure or some good horse manure, heck, it'll do the same thing. Any kind of good organic fertilizer will work fine there. So if you have that in bulk, or if you have some good compost that's available, anything like that to incorporate a few days before planting is probably the best. And the reason I like to do that is it starts breaking down those microbes, get active, so that when you do plant those onions, they can kick off to a good start.
Yeah. So then about 2 weeks later.
About 2 weeks later, then we're going to start with our, it's right here, 20. And this is a good basic fertilizer right here. And we also have a new one out that we didn't bring in here. We have a granular. Now this right here, you have to inject through the injector.
It's liquid.
It's
Add
liquid,
it.
yeah. So
Or you can add it in a watering can for raised beds.
exactly right. So you could plant this. I mean, put this through your drip tape if you got your onions on drip tape. Here's the key there. That's a 20-20-20, so that's a good balanced fertilizer. We also have a general fertilizer, which is a 10-10-10 that we sell that would also do the same thing. Here's the thing. You want to hit these onions with a good balanced fertilizer, and then you want to rotate that with a sulfur fertilizer, which is ammonia sulfate.
And the sulfur gives the plant the onion flavor.
It gives an onion flavor, but alliums in general, which are the family that onions belong to, love sulfur. So it makes the onion plant good and healthy. And of course, everything's back over here. We want to put, every time that we put one of these in there, we want to add our microboost.
Would you say that's your secret sauce?
Secret sauce right here. So this right here has everything in it that these two do not. These, well, this was actually just a nitrogen source, but this has nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and then you hit it every other week with a good sulfur nitrogen source, and then you're going boom, boom, the secret sauce in there every time with that.
Until it bulbs.
Until it starts bubbling 30 days before harvest, and that is the secret to onion production there.
What about water requirements?
Water requirements, now this is, it's kind of half and half with me. Onions are one of those things you can get by with on drip tape form. So drip tape is really good, especially if you know you're going to be struggling with water. But sometimes in the wintertime, we don't have water problems.
We have a wet winter. So
We have wet winter. So for me, it's about 50-50 whether I put drip
they
tape
say
on
we're
or
going to
not.
have a dry winter.
Well, I'm not putting mine on drip tape this time. Normally I do, but I'm not putting them on drip tape this time. I'm taking my chances. So I will use a regular 10-10-10, and then I'm going to use the ammonia sulfate, which is water soluble, or you can side dress with it. And then I will take my my little sprayer there, and I'll shoot the secret sauce to it as I can, about every 2 to 3 weeks.
So you say the top things about onions is plant the right type.
The secret is to plant the right type that you need for your area at the right time. And then you
Feed it.
And you feed it right, and then you're going to get some good onions.
How about we plant some?
All right, but first, I guess we can do that when plant. I was going to show people how deep to plant them. But I guess we can do that. We're going to plant some in containers today. And the reason we're going to plant some in containers, we've always planted ours in, well, I have, but I got a large garden, in what we call the flat, just out in the garden. Now you, however, have planted some of yours in raised beds.
Yeah, the last 2 years I've planted mine in raised beds, and they've done just as well as yours.
But we got a neighbor that went crazy on planting onions last year. And they planted them in containers. And they were amazed at the onion harvest they got. They was just tickled.
Right, they were bigger than your onions.
They were, they were nice large onions, okay? But they were tickled pink. So it come to us that a lot of people that have these small areas, or if you don't have a big garden, or if you don't have your garden ready, you can always plant onions in a container. All right, so we have this root pouch here, but you know what? These root pouches work wonderful for containers. If you don't have a container, root pouches is the ticket here. We use a good pot and soil there, or you can use seed start mix if that's what you got.
This is a 15-gallon,
15 gallon.
and we have also 45 100.
We have
I
some
think
big
the
ones.
45 would be best, but it was a little awkward to put on the set.
Yeah, but if you have other containers already, hey, it'll work too. We even got, our neighbor has these big totes that they cut in half, and they drill some holes in there, and they work wonderful for that. So the variety I'm going to plant in the container today is sapelo. And let's dig in here. Now on these onion plants, we sell these as 50 to a bundle, but I can promise you get more than 50 in there. So what I would do, we've already incorporated our complete organic in there, and you just kind of sprinkle that on there and mix it in the top 6 to 8 inches there, and you got that already sorted there. Then you start planting your onions, and this is the way I do it. Just kind of punch a hole in there with your finger and stick that onion in there. Now you want as much of that root system down there as you can. You don't want that root sticking out. Look at there. I'm going to plant them, if you can't tell there, I'm going to plant them about that deep right there. That's the ideal depth
Where the white ends,
to plant the onions right there.
that's not too close.
No, and I tell you the reason why it's not too close. We give away another secret here. Plant them a little bit close. And what you're going to do is you're going to come out here once these onions start growing, and you're going to pull every other one when they get to the what we call the spring onion stage. We like to eat a lot of onions when they've got the green tops on them, and they got the bulb will be a little bit bigger than your thumb there, especially around Thanksgiving. These things are wonderful. And what that does is it utilizes all your space in your container so you can grow more onions, and then you pull every other one out, and that gives room to grow those big bulbs of onions that you'll gather in the springtime. Let's see how many I'm gonna get in here. Let me go ahead. You could probably plant them a little bit thicker than what I'm doing and still come here and pull them out. Ideally, what you want about 8 inches in between to grow your big bulb onions. All right, set them down over there. I don't know if y'all can tell here. I'm gonna lift this up. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. About 12 onions in this container right here. And we'll pull some out eating spring onions, and we'll leave probably about, what do you think, about
half of them?
About half of them in there to have those big onions come springtime. And I know what you're thinking, but let me tell you something. The proof is in the pudding. We seen our neighbor grow wonderful onion crops last year in these containers right here.
Mm-hmm. So there you have it.
So there you have it. One other thing is weeding. Let's talk about weeding just for a minute.
Have you?
Onions can be a little bit tough on the weeding part of it. Something like this right here, this single tine cultivator works wonderful because you can get in between those onion plants there and get those weeds out of there. I try to go in there and keep my onions weeded at least once a week because they will get ahead of you. If you don't have a lot of weed pressure, you can plant double rows. I have a lot of weed pressure in my garden because I've had my garden for a long time. So I always plant mine on
and that comes in the long handle.
Long handles, and I like
and the
about
short handle.
Is you can choke up on it when you get down there close like that, or you can reach back out like that over there. So this is a good, to me, it's a good size right here.
What about the disease?
Yep. Now we don't have much problem with insects, but we do have a little bit of problem with disease on the onions. And the reason we do is because we have to push them so hard because we're trying to make those big onions. So we're pushing these onions, we give them a lot of food, and sometimes we have some disease pressures. The two main disease pressures that you're going to face is powdery mildew and blight. Both of them look real similar on the leaf there. They have these little lesions on the leaves. The leaves look a little rough. This product right here, going into the springtime, you're probably going to need to hit it a couple of times with this. This is chlorothianil. It's an old fungicide, been out there forever. It is a protectant. You can spray this on there, and this will help a lot with that powdery mildew and that blight. I seem to have more problems with disease on that from when those plants are bulbing. About the middle of February till up till the middle of March seems to be my worst time. Now, you're probably going to need to hold off on application of this a couple of weeks up to harvest. But during that time frame of February and the 1st of March, I think you're probably going to need to hit them because we just about always have a little bit of a blight problem there. And if you do fertilize your onions during that period that we told you not to when they're bulbing, that's also going to spark a blight problem as well. So that's another reason, besides wanting to grow big onions, is it will cause disease problems if you fertilize too late. Onions, no reason why you shouldn't plant onions. Containers, or plant them out in your raised beds, or plant them out in your regular garden.
Garden spotlight.
Garden spotlight, I'm glad you reminded me of that. All right, so our garden spotlight this week is from Joyce Marie Herbert, and she is DeQuincy, Louisiana.
Herbert or Hebert?
Hebert, H-E-B-E-R.
Hebert.
Hebert. Hebert, thank you so much. I'm not the best on pronouncing names. But she is zone 9, and I'm going to show you some pictures here she sent in. She loves growing dumpling squash, which is one of our favorites. We love dumpling squash. And here's a picture of her tomatoes. Look how nice and green they are growing. Yep. So we have her picture of her tomatoes and her dumpling squash, which I think everybody should be growing dumpling squash. Thank you, Joyce, for sending in your pictures for Garden Spotlight of the Week.
Old goat.
Old goat. So somewhere on the set is an old goat. It's a figurine, and every week we have a little contest, see if you can find the old goat. And if you found it, in the comments below, put in there where the old goat's at, and we'll draw a name next week. And if you win, we send you a big prize. How about that? You want me to do it, or you want to do it?
Go ahead.
And the winner this week is Kim Carpenter. I finally get a name
You can pronounce.
Kim Carpenter. Yep. So send us your address to hosstools.com, Kim, and we will get you a prize out in the mail.
And just a FYI, the old goat has told me that he's going to go on vacation the whole month of December.
Really, for the holidays?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we might have to hire a fill-in.
A fill-in for the whole goat.
Fill-in for the old goat. Y'all be on the lookout for that. Joke.
Okay. Corny joke of the week.
What kind of horse does an onion ride? You should be able to get this one. What's your different type of onions? What kind of horse would
Sweet onion? A sweet horse?
Scallion. You're bad.
Scallion. That is bad. That's pretty good. The scallion horse. Yeah. Yeah. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions about onion growing, go check our onion growing guide on our website.
Or put in the comments below.
Yeah, put it in the comments below. If we missed something that you think you can add to what we said, heck yeah, tell us about it. We're always looking for comments and for different ways to be successful growing your own food. Now, thank you so much for joining us. Now, get off that couch and get dirty.